Welcome back to the table, friends. I'm your humble host, Grady Ems. With me, as always, is Owen.
Hello.
So today, tonight, tomorning, whatever.
Right now,
we have a very special episode because we are here to all help out one individual and through them a bunch of individuals who have acquired a RPG module in some form and wish to present it to their table. And we are going to help them by giving them some collective tips and a discussion of how you can do that, what things help and what things may hinder, and what pitfalls you may run into.
Okay.
Specifically, this is all to help out a certain friend of ours who is trying to undertake this momentous task. And I figured we just put it all out there because somebody else could probably use it too.
Yeah, sure.
So, specifically, we're going to be talking a lot about, or at least in reference to 5th edition modules. And since a lot of the Wizards of the Coast published adventure books are what will be on our minds, we will probably be referencing them. It does not mean that this information is not applicable to various systems and modules. Everything is kind of universal language. We just might be specifically referencing Wizards of the Coast stuff ad nauseum.
It's got the most amount of work out there.
Yeah, so just bear with us on that. But basically, we're assuming a couple things. So we're assuming, one, you have played the game system that you are going to run sufficiently enough that you know how it works.
And if you haven't, you need to.
Yes. So this is not how to DM. This is not how to run, just a game in general. This is how to adapt a module. This is also not how to write a story or how to write your own module. We someday maybe could talk about that when we find ourselves better at doing that. But no, this is how to adapt somebody else's module. So we'll go through a couple phases here to kind of organize our discussion. And so we're going to start with something we're going to call phase 1, which is essentially macro preparation. So this is all the things that probably need to happen before the campaign begins.
Snacks, soda.
Yes.
Any chips, things like that. You got to make sure you use the restroom.
I think the players really need to feed the DM.
You think so? You think that should be a rule?
I think that's a rule. That's something we haven't done, but that should be the rule because, after all the work you're going to put in, at least they could feed you.
Well, okay, we might not have purposefully fed the DM, but there's been a few times where someone has tried to bribe.
Oh, 100%. We have had pizza, cheese curds multiple times.
Cheese curds.
Was it pizza rolls?
Pizza rolls, yeah. Several kinds of odd off-the-wall candy.
Yes. Get the DM on a sugar high and they might let something slip. Okay, so we're assuming that you're starting out with some sort of book in front of you that you think that you're like, hey, this would be really great to run my party through. So probably the most common depiction of this is going to be something like a Wizards of the Coast adventure. So something like could be Lost Mines of Vandelver, Curse of Strahd, Storm King's Thunder, something like that. But you basically have acquired the thing you want to run, and you have an idea of the people you want to run it for. So step 1 is you got to read the book. So now, when you do your first read through of these books, unlike a normal book, this is not something you can really sit down and read through cover to cover. If you crack open a module, depending on the company that produced it, depending on how they've laid it out, some of the stuff is going to be very interesting and some of the stuff is going to be dry as hell.
Yes.
So you're going to get through a bunch of interesting stuff that you need to read, and then you're going to get to the chapter specific stuff where you just have blocks of pages of what's in an inn or what's in the fishery or, things like that. That's not what we're saying you need to read right now. What we're saying is you need to do a first pass through, which is basically going to look at almost all the introductions. So the introduction basically to the book, which is usually going to be the personal advice of this is what the book summary is. This is what you're trying to do. Probably also the summaries of each chapter so that you have an idea of how the plot is going to go. The art, the maps, the chapter titles. Your goal is to try to get an understanding of what you have in your hand, digital or otherwise.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
As it's not fun to play a campaign with a DM who's learning about the campaign just as quickly as you are.
No, not unless you are extremely talented.
Yes.
And I don't know anyone who is.
Mm-mm.
So you also need to understand kind of how the module is being presented. So kind of what type is it? For example, if you read Chris Estrad, you probably are going to need to figure out, oh, this module is basically a little bit of a sandboxy adventure in Barovia where it's more of a treasure hunt where you need to go collect a couple artifacts and then ultimately storm the castle and take care of Strahd.
Yeah, and it's a, nice, happy jaunt through Barovia, like it's sunshine, rainbows, and stuff like that. No. You need to read it first so you can learn the tone.
Yes, tone or vibe is like one of the most important things that you're supposed to get, because very soon you are going to be scheduling a session 0.
Mm-hmm.
And this is information that you need to have for them.
Yes. And I think we've said it a few times before, but make sure the characters that your table are creating fit the vibe of the table.
Yeah, we'll get that in session 0, but yes, absolutely. So after you've basically done this essentially first pass, or after you've done a look through, after you've done your first read through, you should have a couple understandings like really in your head. One, you're going to want to know basically almost all the introductions. So you're going to want to know how like the narrative is kind of being presented basically to you.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the bullet points of like, oh, the characters arrive in Barovia, Strahd makes an appearance, they learn this, kind of how a general version of the story is going to go. You should take a look at the conclusions of like basically each chapter, because they're going to start highlighting like important characters or important events that like after the players do blank, and you're going to start seeing reoccurring things. All these reoccurring places and names are things you might want to pay attention to, because you're going to want to know them in the future. Specifically NPCs that keep appearing in the module. You know what? If you can commit the sin of altering the book, highlight them. Like, make notes or just put like post-its there if you don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Mark it up, print a copy of it, whatever you got to do, because you want to start putting your copy of notes together to remind you of these things. And then finally, what you're going to probably, one of the most useful things is going back in and reading the entire first chapter. So basically, the beginning of the book is going to be an introduction to the players, and that's going to be where most of the job of setting tone is done.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably the best place to just full go in and read all the way through. So coming out of this, you should know roughly what type of structure the narrative is in. So whether it's going to be like, whether parts of it are going to be very linear, very railroad, kind of like Lost Mine of Phandelver, which is very like go to point A, go to point B. This is going to happen in a row. Or if it's going to be sandboxy, which is like Curse of Strahd or Icewind Dale, Rime of the Frost Maiden, which a lot of it's just like, hey, your characters are going to wander around for a long period of time. And be very careful about the goose going Storm King's Thunder. But like have a good idea of those parts and note that that is the type of story it is, because once again, this is all stuff you're about to go tell your players. And finally, you should probably take a look around online and seek community wisdom. So there are plenty of basically Reddit threads to probably every single one of these adventures, and really probably the more obscure, like even the most obscure adventures of obscure role-playing systems, there's probably someone out there who had a strong enough opinion on how it should be read. So there are DM guides. You could just like Google Sly Flourish's Guide to Blank, and you might find a full article dedicated to that particular game. Listen to like basically pitfalls and ways that their telling of this story went. So a lot of times you're right off the bat, they're going to be like, this one fight is just a nightmare. Or my players couldn't get through the understanding of this. This is all good information for you to contain and to put together into your initial notes. All right. So now we go to phase 2.
Oh, no.
And we've been talking about it the whole time. This is where you have your session 0. So before the game ever starts, You need to tell your players everything that they're going to need to know about this game and how to interact with it to the best of all of your abilities. So, for example, right off the bat, pitch the adventure to them. So, I think this is where, Owen, you're...
Yes. Don't make the mistake I did and just tell people to make characters that they want to play, because
it was really evocative because you were like, hey, just make any type of person who would end up in this city.
Yeah.
Well, then we did.
And 2 of them made characters that fit the need of the story, which was to explore and figure out the strange things that are happening. And 2 people made characters that were just like, fuck this shit, I'm out. Why would I ever want to deal with this?
Yeah, and there's a lot of subtext of like, hint, hint, this may lead to a game. But like, this is an experiment I want to do.
Yeah,
like, oh, this is a super interesting character ad. But like, we've committed that sin at the table how many times?
Yeah.
Sometimes like at the table, we're like, oh my gosh, here's a great idea. We're all going to go do this module, but I want you guys to have grown up as childhood friends.
Yeah.
And then one of you is just like, oh,
I'm going to fuck it all up.
I'm gonna be a character that's unplayable for myself.
It was another one of the sins that always happens at our table, where situations happen where no one takes the lead. And again, it was one of those situations where it's like, oh, well, Owen usually takes the lead in these situations. I made a character that will never take the lead, and we didn't do anything.
Nope. It was like I said, that's the type of thing that you need to have. So you basically need to say, hey, this is the pitch of the adventure. These are kind of the pillars of play that will be needed here. Like this adventure that I've just read through for the first time is going to be heavy on exploration. And like, tell the parties that. Be like, hey, one of you should probably start taking survival as a skill, like put the bug in their head about like, make a character for this story, not just the next character you wanted to play in D&D.
Right.
Also, think about things like discussing tone, level of lethality, things like that. Basically, if you're playing in a really lighthearted game, then you're like, you guys don't need to min-max here. You can have a little more fun. You're probably going to discuss how like character point generation or attribute point generation and stuff like that anyway. So like, basically have those discussions. Also, as always, safety tools, veils, all the typical stuff that you basically talk about at the table. If you need more information on that, that's part of like how to be a DM. But here's why you prepared for this moment. Like, you want the characters to start discussing their character creation. I'm sorry, the players to start discussing their character creation. And this is something that even the people that are telling you this is a good idea, have a terrible problem with, because almost always 2 people at the table are like, I will just go make the character at home.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want to do. You want to have, the point is to have everybody talk about those characters at the table so that you can tie them in together, and so that you can tie them into parts of the story. So like Lost Mine of Phandelver like starts with the characters coming from the vicinity of Neverwinter. So anything that helps that, like, why are you marching out from Neverwinter to some frontier town for like a couple gold or 100 gold? And they're like, oh, well, here, maybe I need to ask that question to myself right now. Maybe I need to think, oh, maybe there's some stuff in Neverwinter that I was trying to get away from. Well, already you've just multiplied the interest of your character.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah, and it sucks when you have a group of people get together to play a game that all created their characters separately, and then the DM has to go, why are you guys a party?
Yeah.
And no one can give you a concise answer.
So one of the reasons why you've gone through and identified interesting NPCs and NPCs that'll have a important role in your game is for this moment. So that if people start looking at like, oh, well, I have this idea for my character, maybe my character has an uncle or a friend or whatever, you've got a list of NPCs that you can be like, hey, if I can attach you to one of these, then all of a sudden a lot of the plot of the adventure is going to be more organic. And this is your role because you can't tell them, hey, these are the NPCs that are going to be here. But you can be like, hey, I have a character. I could give you some information that no one else has because maybe you know this person ahead of time. And this is how you organically start tying each one of them to each other, but also, more importantly, to the plot that you're going to tell them.
Right on.
Right on. But yeah, so afterwards, after all your players go home and try to min-max and create the most broken freaking characters.
Or completely forget for 6 days and 10 hours.
And make it up on their phone while they're sitting in the chair waiting to start. Yeah, so now you're back home. You're getting ready for that, next game that's going to be the first time you guys roll dice together. You got this book in front of you. So what kind of prep loop does that look like? What does your week or 2 weeks of prep time actually look like before a session? So right off the bat, if you've had a session already, you want to look at the session notes from the previous time. Where did you stop? What were the players doing? Don't just disregard what happened. I get it. Believe me, there's a lot on your plate, but everything you reference, everything you bring forward brings more buy-in, your believability and buy-in for the players. So do it. Yeah. One of the things you can do to help this is basically make sure that when you end on a session, either then or shortly afterwards, you kind of get back and ask the players, what are you planning on doing next time? I know that sometimes at adversarial tables, people are like, well, I don't want to tell you, but that's, once again, that should be handled in session 0, that this is not that type of thing. So with the players, especially in the sandbox ones, are like, hey, we heard this thing and we're really thinking of going there. Then you have a better idea of what to prep for that session.
Right.
But anyway, generally you're going to have an idea of what the next part of the story is and where, what chapter you're working on or what session in the book you're working on. So you're going to want to go through and you're going to want to read that chapter. So this is where you do your full dive. This is where you're going to basically tear apart that section of the story in the module, start pulling out every NPC, every location, building an understanding in your mind of how they're connected to each other, doing everything you can to essentially be able to visualize in your head where they're going to essentially have playtime. So there's a lot of different tool sets that you can use to help you, and you're going to have to kind of learn which ones you're working with better. Sometimes people can go through notes on a computer really quick.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people have to have physical things lined out in front of them. Sometimes people just like index cards. I've done them all, and I think every person needs to kind of work through them. But you're going to develop your kit, and this is where you have to sit, unfortunately, in front of your book for probably 2 to sometimes 4 or 5 hours.
Minutes, yeah. Oh, it's so long.
But you need to do the work ahead of time, and you need to do it generally in a way so that it is fresh in your mind when you go to sit down. So that means you can't front load all the work and then wait 2 weeks, and you can't all do it at the last minute or you're not going to get it done. So anyway, you're going to need things like a list of NPCs. You're going to have stat blocks for all your monsters, maps, or at least information on all the locations. This is also the great time where you can pick elements of the story to bring into reality.
Mm-hmm.
What can you make in 2 weeks? Can you go get a map printed and put on a piece of parchment? Can you go look at some cheesy, costume jewelry ring to represent the thing you're supposed to find?
Well, no, you get your production crew to make an entire panoramic village of, the place you're at, set it all up with special effects and lighting.
Hook up with your producers.
That's right.
Get the art department out. Get them to start doing the backups. Oh, yeah, if only. And so finally, the big thing that you're going to want to do basically before you go back to the table is have a really solid plan for starting the session.
Mm-hmm.
So the starting of any session is going to be essentially the setting of tone and the setting of pacing. So you have to decide whether this session should be full of energy, or the monster bursts in from the door you were looking behind, or whether it's going to be suspenseful, or what mood you're trying to put forward. But you should have that idea. You don't want to just start the game with, where were we? You know, you want to get people engaged right off the bat. So, leave yourself some notes, even if it's just an index card with your first couple lines of dialogue. So, running the game at the table. So one of the best parts about buying one of these modules is that you have the module. It is a bunch of the notes already made for you.
Rule number 1 of having the module, have the module.
But there's a couple pitfalls that you need to, stay away from. So one, feel free to note up this module as much as possible and put in as many details of your own in. A lot of times the module is expecting you to do this. They're expecting you to use this as the framework to build a world around it, not, everything is in this module. It's not an AI that's telling you what is down every alleyway. Many published modules will also have read aloud text in boxes. This is really meant to be a way to express the scene as an example, not something you're supposed to read. One of the first places where you can level up your game is stopping to read this. It's from personal experience, and you're both reading it from the book and sit there as a player at the table as the DM reads it from a book. There's nothing more breaking, more discongruent than hearing the
breaks
cadence.
Your immersion.
Yeah, it just immediately, everything that the conversation that's being had between the players and the DM is then altered. So the DM gets into this stuffy classroom, the waterfall shimmers down, blah, blah, and everybody just knows it's wrong. If you want to replace that with what you've written, that is a step in the right direction, because at least it's going to sound like you wrote it.
It's a cave. Can you describe it anymore? It's dark. It's a dark cave.
But what's far more useful is to basically add elements, physical elements of sensory information into the description, put them a couple notes, and then ad-lib the description to the people at the table. Have your bullet points of I need to express this is a dark cave. I also want to express, because I know there's a slime monster inside, that it's a wet, damp cave, And then, of course, because, I'm Matt Mercer, I need to talk about the citrus smell of undead. Citrusy, sweet smell of undead that, his brings in. But, have those elements ready so you're okay, cool.
But there's a slime. What do its eyes tell me?
What is its golden eyes that are both the color of a setting and a rising sun at the same time in some sweet, awesome way?
Do they remind you of your father?
I think of my father sitting on the hill. Oh, God. Theater kids. All right. So you've got your description notes. You've got your list of all the information. You've started running the module. Be ready to improvise. You're not going to sit there. The players are not going to do what it says in the book, even if it says anything in the book. Remember that this book is basically designed to set up little escape rooms for you to put your players in, and they're going to interact in that room. It's not designed as a case statement of if this, then this.
And realize the most mundane thing that's in a room, they will probably hyperfixate on.
Oh, absolutely.
For no reason.
Yeah, that's the glory of the game, and feel free to turn that thing into the arch-villain if you wanted to, or nothing.
I jumped down the well.
I remember Jason was just it doesn't say if you negotiate with the cult. But I'm a charisma bar.
That's what happens with me.
It's no, they want a sacrifice. Yes, and I'm telling them that we should get a good sacrifice. Not me. I'm a bad sacrifice. Yeah.
And just because you saw it happen online or in a meme doesn't mean it's going to work in your campaign.
No, seriously, with YouTube Shorts and TikTok, that is a cancer that needs to be ripped out. If you see a young member of your table who's basically sitting there constantly I'm going to go tell the dragon, behold dragon, I've
brought you the sacrifice.
And yes, I'm throwing shade directly at Drake, but come on, we've both seen it. Don't do it. Do something interesting yourself. You know?
Though if the DM can pull it off, if someone tries to do the whole, I try to push the orc over the ledge and they roll in that one, it's like gently caress his cheek. Do it. Please do it.
Also, here, like, at this point, you're DMing, okay?
Yeah.
So you just have to learn to be a good DM. And there's some things that you have to learn that are skills. Part of it is learning what is a good story. And sometimes the dice, despite everything you've written, provide you a better story than anybody's working. And that's the caressing the orc by the cheek.
Yes.
It's like the dice just gave me a fantastic story, and I have to be blessed by the dice god and just go with it. Another important thing to do here is to understand that your job is not to move the players to the plot, but to move the plot to the players.
Mm.
So if the players do, like they always, act like squirrels and run and obsess about something that is nowhere near,
the plot has to chase behind them like a maniac trying to kill them.
This is where you have people where they're like, I need to go talk to the blacksmith about this thing because even though we came to talk to the mayor or whatever, and then they're talking with the blacksmith about how to blacksmith, like, can you make a sword out of this twisted wrought iron gate that I pulled apart when I was coming up here?
I forgot about that.
Well,
why?
I guess I could. I mean, I have swords here, but then, yeah, sure. Like the blacksmith is like, okay, I'm going to work on this. Oh, by the way, did you guys hear that the mayor is looking for adventures to, you are the consistent sign posting plot here that can show the players. And once again, you're not forcing them. You're showing them where the plot is, because if they choose to be antagonistic and ignore it, that's a bad table. But like, if they want to play, at certain points, they're going to be like, oh yeah, we spent a lot of time out in the woods and the DM's been pointing the plot back to town for like the past 2 hours. Maybe we should go talk to the man.
And sometimes it's not the person being obtuse on purpose. Sometimes people just miss the plot and they don't realize what's happening. And you just kind of have to give them that little kick that sends them back where they're supposed to be.
And here's a great thing is if they run around in the woods too long, knife somebody important. Oh my gosh. If the players get the delusion that there's real world consequences for fucking around too much, you will get a complex that will run with them for the next 6 years of their life where they will like be paralyzed to not fix everything.
It also sealed a plot hole that one of the other players was so worried about other people finding.
Yes, so do these things. Another cardinal rule is that a lot of these modules will have NPCs, like kind of DM-ish NPCs that show up. Oftentimes, famous NPCs from whatever world the module's from, like Dritz Duerden or like Blackstaff or something. Number one rule is never let them steal the spotlight, okay? You want to get that crap murdered right off the bat. Like, they're there to throw a little, like, happiness at any lore heads who are out there and to kind of be like, tee-hee, this is awesome. It's in a shared world. They're not there to make the players look incompetent or less useful or not needed. They're just there for flavor, so keep them there. If you're obsessing about how awesome they are, it's a good idea to get rid of them before they brand them as Bert Trayer II and
Becca
Stabber. Finally, if you don't know exactly the ruling on a rule or some issue that pops up, relax, realize you're the DM, and just make what you think is the best call at the time, and then handle that stuff later. You can always have in-depth discussions after the session with the people, especially if one of them is your ex-DM, who will happily tell you how you did things wrong, but it's not the time to do it at the table while everybody's trying to play. All right? So, hopefully, you have gone through your session, you've had some laughs, you've had a good time, and everybody's winding down, and you're looking forward to doing it again in an interval, whatever, a week or 2 weeks. So, post-session, what should you be doing now? This is the moment when you should be writing down all your notes, because every time you come up with a reason not to do it at this moment, you are sacrificing things you should have known. For 15 years of experience, I can tell you, write down the freaking notes at this moment, because every time I don't, I ruin stuff. So just do it. Have those notes ready for you when you inevitably pick the book up again and start working on the next chapter. This is the moment to do that stuff. Also, make sure you get the question answered. What do the players want to do next time? If that's not immediately obvious, then get it out of them forcefully if you have to.
With violence.
With violence. And lastly, the most kind of carried through, which I'm not even sure of where else I've heard this, even though our first DM did this. But at the end, always solicit feedback.
Mm-hmm.
Question, comments, criticisms. What could we do better? What do you like?
I feel like you should stop screwing my character over. It's just making things worse for him.
Could you stop making awkward insinuations about what we're going to do when your girlfriend goes away in front of your girlfriend? It's getting really awkward. Yeah. So yeah, get feedback from your players. Talk about, hey, how did this go? What would you have liked to have seen? Hopefully they're going to say more than just like, it was good. I liked it, We all know that that's super useful.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, if you follow that structure, I believe you should be able to pick up any of these modules. And you know what? Might be a little rough at first, but you'll get there and you'll have a lot of fun at the table, and we'll love to have you lead us through whatever module that you picked up.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
More DMs.
The world should have more DMs in it, even if they're cringy and they come up with really dumb stuff. And
I don't know, a couple of our favorite characters were created in campaigns run by someone who was not a good DM, but just rolled with it.
Yeah, I like if you have to make your own fun despite the DM, I still think that functionally there's a problem. But I do agree. Sometimes a DM who's trying their best,
mm-hmm.
which I think there's a difference between a couple of the ones we've had, but DMs who do try their best, but just are tired and they sit on the session and they spend the first 20 minutes of the session reading ahead in the chapter. You're like, okay. Sometimes you got to help them out and, just start making your own fun. And whether that's selling human kebabs on the side of a cart or specifically targeting to knock out all the giant clans in one last glorious hurrah.
Or summoning Tiamat and then sending her to another dimension where there's another Tiamat.
Getting a bunch of kobolds together to build Mecha Bahamut.
Yeah, Mecha Bahamut.
Mecha Bahamut
right.
against Tiamat.
Right.
These are all wonderful things that can happen. Just don't pull out the goose coin, folks.
Yeah. No one's they're gonna be like, why do they keep bringing up the stupid goose coin?
Storm King's Thunder, look it up. It
Yeah.
sucks.
We're probably the only people that had that experience, right?
Maybe. Seriously, if any of you have played Storm King's Thunder and you have not, you were like, oh, the goose coin, and you don't.
That's weird. Why are they so hung up on the goose coins?
So I guess we've got some time here. So we've had a decent run at most of the modules in 5th edition that were published by Wizards of the Coast.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple that I held on to specifically that I was like, I don't want us playing until I'm ready for them, which kind of sucks now because we may never play them. But most of the others, one of us ran. What do you think? Let's do one each. Favorite and one that you never want to touch again. One that you'd be interested in going back and one that you never want to touch again.
I did like Storm King's Thunder as much as we complain about things with it, because I think that was his first real run with us DMing, wasn't it?
With him DMing?
Him DMing, I'm sorry, yes.
I think that was the first I bought the book because our other buddy ran Strahd and he wanted to run Strahd.
Gotcha.
Jason can fix all this, but
yeah.
I think he wanted to do Strahd, but he was like, no, I can't do it because our other buddy did it.
Yeah.
Famously. And then he was like, oh, well, Storm King's Thunder just came out. And I was like, cool. Yeah, I own it, but I haven't read it, so go for it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a bit dysfunctional because it was new.
Sandbox.
Yes, it was a very sandbox campaign. You and I did not make it easy for him.
No.
We should be separated sometimes.
We really should.
When the third person, Max, is involved, which he wasn't this time, but I feel sorry when someone does DM something for all three of us. It's just because we pick at each other. I still enjoyed it. Like, one of my most memorable characters that I enjoyed came out of it. One of my favorite characters you've played came out of it. So I enjoyed that one quite a bit. Curse of Strahd is probably the number 2, just because I've never played it the way it's supposed to be played.
Yeah. Curse of Strahd, we played through it once, but we played like through the first third of it, like 3 times almost.
Yeah.
Because
just things didn't go right.
Yeah, the DM that was running it, like the big problem was you have to like be comfortable with using Strahd and Barovia as a character.
Mm-hmm.
And like they weren't in a mindset to understand how to use Strahd.
Mm-hmm.
And so either they threw Strahd at us while we were like level 5 and like a tweaked out paladin just killed him in a round.
Yeah.
Or they like just kept making Strahd pop up in weird places as a demigod that didn't make sense, and then they couldn't role play them.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was never... Curse of Strahd needs to be... Curse of Strahd, you have to establish a vibe, and that DM could not establish a vibe.
Yeah. And it just kind of ruined the whole thing.
Yeah, it's not meant to. I do agree that, like, and it really sucks because that's one of Jason wants that.
Yes.
Like, Jason wants that really bad, and that's one of those things.
I would be willing to try it again. It sucks because it was one of those situations where it's like, I know at that time, I know of Curse of Strahd. I've never played it, so I don't know the details. Now I know the details, so it's like, well, I've missed out on that. But I can still play it again and kind of enjoy it.
Yeah. No, it's pretty interesting. I as much as I wanted to see it all the way through, I think I would be very happy living the rest of my life without ever having to touch Horde of the Dragon Queen or the Tyranny of Dragons.
Really?
Well, like we played the intro to that like 5 times.
Yeah.
Like we know how to game that first session in every way. We have killed the blue dragonborn. So 4 out of the 5 times we played, we killed it because I died the first time.
Yeah.
Like I became obsessed with like figuring every way out of killing that thing. And I think that was that was one of those things where, like we said, you should probably go online and read like what's problematic about this encounter. Mm-hmm. And like right online, you'll see people like, ooh, this whole thing in the beginning is meant to establish a tone, and if your players don't take it well, you're going to have bad times. So maybe just don't have it like come off that way. Maybe do it differently. And if you just read it as it is, you know, basically when the champion comes out and like, you know, does the thing, it like there's a lot of problems that it can go, and it can also turn into really hilarious stories, like a kobold and a goblin running around with the skull of a dragonborn on its head,
right?
You know, and turning his skin into a duster coat. like it's just, yeah. I would really love, and it's on the agenda to be played.
Mm-hmm.
I would really love to kind of like tear that apart, this is pretty much true with all the adventures, is to tear it apart and then do my take on it. But like, yeah, as a player, I'm like, I don't think I need to see that one ever again. What else? One of the ones that I would like to see again, because I think it has a lot of replayability, is the Vault of the Golden Dragon, the Waterdeep, the Dragon's Vault or Water.
Oh yeah, the like heist kind of thing.
Yeah, that one. Because that module is built in, where basically depending on what season, like the whole module changes. Like each part of it changes, and so each part of it was written in the 4 seasons. So like if you're in the spring, it's a different enemy, you know, and like so that one's got some replayability where like the structure of the module will stay the same, but all the specifics will change enough that a different group. And I think that like, I think honestly, like the more like the groups that we play with now are more likely to have fun with that one because they'll spin off their own stories so much that they'll get really obsessed with like running the inn and buying stuff for it.
Yeah.
I think that would be good. So that one's kind of always been in the back of my head as like that'd be kind of cool. Yeah.
Is that the one where we had the tabaxi that was chasing after us?
No, that was the custom campaign.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We had Prigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, poor guy.
That's right. Yeah, now I remember.
Poor Jason was just like, oh yeah, your friends, they're all dead. We let them die.
Let them die.
Go away now. That orphan's not going to turn into a character now. And like cut to like 6 months later on when he tries to assassinate.
Yeah,
and he's just like, I'm going to turn you into paste, little cat. Squish. Like, oh, this character met a bad end.
And it was all the player's fault.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm a bastard and everything worked out my way. This That's awesome. No repercussions whatsoever.
None.
Yeah, well, okay, yes, sir. Yeah. That's a good place to end it. And hey, if Drake, I hope this helped. If you have any other questions, give me a holler.
If you have any other questions, ask, and then we'll make another podcast.
Yeah, we'll dedicate a whole.
Yes,
this is good content. All right, guys.
Later.
See you later.